Ohio State's receiving corps is about to unleash a storm on college football, and we've got the inside scoop.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Monday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, veteran sports talk host, delivering passionate coverage about your Buckeyes. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. During today's show, we will be joined by a guy who I said for years is my favorite NFL draft analyst. He covers the NFL draft and college football for A to Z Sports, as well as he has a show on YouTube, the A to Z Sports Film Room on YouTube. Definitely check that out. It's my guy, Ryan Roberts. And normally when Ryan and I come on the show together, we're talking draft from the beginning to the end. But we're going to kind of change things up and be a little bit more creative, as this is more of a preseason conversation about some very key guys for Ohio State that will be starters and probably will be stars all year long. Ryan, Carnell Tate has been a phenomenal player for Ohio State. He started last year, was he was the third receiver, had 50 receptions, over 700 receiving yards. But some people are saying this is going to be his breakout year. And if you have 50 and 700, you may say that was your breakout year. But when you're behind Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka, it feels comfortable to say that this should be his breakout year. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, no, I would. I think that this has potential to be his breakout season because, Jay, I'm very actually conflicted with Carnell Tate from like an NFL draft sense for a second because I liked him. He reminds me a lot of Robert Woods, like an early comp out there as far as like 6'1", 6'2", like just kind of sleek, gets in and out of his breaks well, but like he kind of lulls you to sleep because you don't think he's like overly explosive, at least not as explosive as like a Jeremiah Smith. But then he gets in and out of breaks so well and gets up to top speed and hurry that it's just like it's deceptive, right? Like his athleticism is super deceptive. But I do think the finer points of playing the position are still a work in progress in some points. Like I think tracking the football down the field, being a consistent hands catcher at times, like there was a couple too many drops last year, but athletically, everything is there for Carnell Tate to be the next guy. And when you talk about the developmental track, even if there's inconsistencies in his game and things he needs to improve upon, him working with Brian Hartline for a third year now, like the odds are is that he's going to take a step. Like how much of a step is a question, but like he's going to be a much better player in 2025 than he was in 2024, just based upon working with a great position coach every single year. So yeah, I think this could be his breakout. I mean, he's going to be the guy outside of Jeremiah Smith that everyone is going to be looking at, like they have a tight end from Purdue, Max Clare, the transfer that I think is a really good football player. They're always going to run the ball with Ryan Day as the head coach as far as like from a volume perspective. But I do think that we are going to look at Carnell Tate to be that guy that takes that ascension. If he's able to take that ascension, then it's just another year, another great wide receiver core for Ohio State and probably the best in the country when all is said and done.
I don't want to be conflicted with him because I agree with everything you just said, but it's hard to replace the shoes that in the role that Emeka Egbuka just had for 4 years at Ohio State. From a guy that was never the number one receiver, I believe he leads having the most catches in Ohio State as a receiver in Ohio State history. And so while you're never the number one receiver, everyone looks at you and realizes he can start at other schools. Carnell Tate, I do believe, could go around the country and start. But part of what I think with him, it's more mental than physical. I think he has the traits. He has the ability to do all the things, but it's more being comfortable in every area to do those things consistently. And you mentioned Hartline, and I think him working alongside Jeremiah Smith, who they've been friends, they've been buddies for a while, I think that comfort level that they have together, along with whoever the starting quarterback is going to be this year, is going to be another reason why he takes another step. Even aside from the Hartline thing, which is real, I think the comfort level he's going to have with his teammates will help him be more comfortable in his role while he is a number 2 receiver and have that breakout year that he's expected to have.
No, I think so. I think comfort is a huge thing, especially in the game of football. Like people always talk about like, how do you play fast? Well, you play fast when you're comfortable, right? Like when you feel confident in what is the expectation. And I think the good thing about is while he's going to take over the mantle as the number 2 receiver without question for Ohio State this year, he's still playing the same role in the offense, right?
Correct.
So I think comfort in that scheme. I mean, we're going to be talking about Brandon Innis, who's going to be kind of filling more of that Emeka Egbuka slot role more than likely. Carnell Tate's still going to be the Z receiver in this offense more often than not. Like, is he going to move around a little bit? Sure, because they're a diverse offense. But I do think being in year 2 also of just being in the same spot from a schematic perspective. Like, you know that Jeremiah Smith, more often than not, is going to be the big boundary X receiver that's going to get a lot of one-on-one coverage. You know that Carnell Tate's going to be more of that Z receiver that's going to be able to work and navigate space a little bit more than what an X is going to do. So I think that familiarity not only with the people around him, with Ryan Day calling offensive play call again, and then working with Jeremiah Smith and Brandon Innis, and obviously he came in the same recruiting class as Innis. That familiarity is important, but I also think the role in the offense is going to be very specific to him over the last couple of years, which I think is going to be big as well for his maturation.
Do you think he's going to be good enough to pull attention away from Jeremiah Smith for opposing defenses to where they can't lock 3 guys in on Jeremiah Smith because Carnell's on the other side? I think he can be that kind of guy to pull defenders away and make a safety really try to figure out, I need to go to Jeremiah Smith, but Tate's on the other side. Do you think he can be that kind of guy to pull attention his way to allow more one-on-one situations for Jeremiah Smith?
I mean, Smith obviously hopes he is, right? I mean, right now, I mean, there's going to be a ton of brackets in early on in the season. Like, they're going to be looking in, although 17's obviously a really good player, Brandon Innis was a former 5-star, and he's a talented player as well. Everybody knows who the guy is, right? Like, it's number 4. So there's going to be extra safety attention there. There's going to be extra attention just in general from a zone discipline perspective. But ultimately, early on in the year, you're going to look at Carnell Tate and you're going to say, this is the guy that needs to take that attention away from him. If he's able to, Jay, like, that's where Julian Sayin has a tremendous year, because it's just like, pick your poison at that point. If Carnell Tate is playing, he's not going to be as good as Jeremiah Smith in a vacuum. Like, Jeremiah Smith is one of the best receivers we have seen come into college football in several years. But if he is just really good and like Emeka Egbuka good last season, or close to an Emeka Egbuka, as a guy that could potentially be a first-round pick without question, then we're talking about an offense that can have crazy bounce. Because, again, we're not even talking about what Max Clare can bring to the table. We're not talking about what Brandon Innis can bring to the table or any other receiver that is on the come-up. That Quincy Porter, it's a true freshman that I really like a lot, that I'm sure we'll be talking about it in future episodes over the years. So if he's able to be that guy, though, then this offense becomes deadly potentially, because I do think that they have a lot of receivers. But it's the volume of the attention more than anything early on in the season, especially. And I think that if they're able to, he'd be able to take that step, then you make things just so much easier for a first-year starting quarterback, obviously.
Let's say he has a breakout year in 2025. How would you go advising him in regards to him staying at Ohio State for another year or entering the NFL draft?
I mean, he has mentally, I think, been ready for a while, because when he was coming out of IMG Academy, and he was a Chicago kid originally, but then he went down to IMG. You know how IMG is, man. Like, IMG mentally prepares you. Like, that is a college football factory, but they're a prep team. Like, they are prepping guys to play college football and then eventually NFL football. Like, that's the standard that they have down in IMG. So Carnell Tate's been ready from a mental perspective. It's just now the technical refinement and the consistency that needs to come, going from year 1 as a starter to year 2 as a starter. So if he takes that step forward, he is going to be ready to play football, and he's going to be ready to be a guy that I think has every opportunity to be a big time dude on the NFL level. So I think as long as he takes a nice step, that I would assume that he would be in the 2026 NFL draft.
From Carnell Tate to a young man that is buddies with Carnell Tate before they got to Ohio State, that is also going to be the starting wide receiver for the Buckeyes, it's Brandon Innis. And I'm curious if Ryan thinks if Innis is the perfect slot receiver for the Buckeyes. We'll discuss that after the break. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Gametime comes in. Gametime makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. Ever wonder what your view will actually look like before you buy? The app shows you a panoramic seat view, so there are no surprises. With Gametime, the price you see is the price you pay, no hidden fees. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account and redeem code LCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So, Ryan, I was kind of unsure on how to present Innis to you in a different thought, because I don't really think about
Yeah.
a player being the ideal player at a certain position. Jeremiah Smith is rare to even say, like, yeah, you're the ideal X in any formation, any team, you're that kind of guy. Would you say Brandon Innis is the ideal slot receiver for Ohio State's offense?
I mean, I was super high on Brandon Innis coming out of high school. I was actually down at the All-American Bowl in San Antonio when he was down there, and I think that he is going to be a very good player for Ohio State this year. And I thought that he was worthy of all the accolades he had coming out in the 5-star status. He's just one of those rare guys that needs to kind of wait his turn a little bit, right? And needed to be a little bit patient. But yeah, I mean, I think he fits perfectly because he's a really good athlete, but he is more short area quick than straight line fast, right? So like that's why he's not an outside receiver most likely. It's similar to like Jack. He's not the same type of player, and his body type's a little different. But like Jackson Smith and Jigba was a slot receiver for Ohio State because he wasn't straight line blazer, right? Like he was a guy that was going to win understanding zone coverage, a guy that was going to be getting in and out of his breaks really well. And I think that Innis is actually a pretty strong dude after the catch as well. So I'm excited to see what he's able to do in this offense. And I do think that he is a guy that fits really well inside.
With a new quarterback coming in, you need guys like Innis that are eager to get on the field in a full-time role, but also have the leadership that he provides off the field and even on practice where you can lean on that guy to get the other players in the receiving room up to speed and help them be sharp on the field.
Yep.
A new quarterback, and I think it's saying at the time of this recording, it has not been announced yet. So if it has, forgive us for sounding like we're not up with the times. Let's say saying is a guy. Mm-hmm. How do you think that he's going to mesh with Innis in this role this year?
Well, I would even throw Max Clare into this conversation too, because I think both those players are so important for a Julian Sayin because one, from a just style perspective, and when you watch Julian Sayin coming out of the state of California originally, he is a heavy like play action RPO guy. Like he wants to get the ball out of his hands fast. He's kind of like that point guard style of quarterback, right? Like he's not the big brooding pocket passer that wants to do 5-7 step drops and live within the pocket, like live within deeper pockets, I should say. He's a guy that wants to get the football out of his hands really quickly. And that always leads me to the quick separators. The quick separators in this offense would be, in theory, out of the slot with a Brandon Innis, right? Like think about that Jackson Smith and Jigba role again. Like I think that getting a guy that can have quick separations early in reps is huge for a rookie, freshman quarterback, a first-time starting quarterback, redshirt freshman. And I think that that will be kind of his safety valve to a degree, right? Like I think most people think, oh, the get out of jail free card is Jeremiah Smith. And while you are correct in the sense of that he's going to win more one-on-one matchups than he's going to lose, I do think that your eyes are going to go quickly to Innis, number 11, in the slot, and then also to Max Clare to the middle of the field as that kind of quick separating tight end over the middle. So I think that that role, that style, like those things lend to be kind of the best friends for a guy like a Julian Sayin. I don't think that Brandon Innis is going to be the number one receiver on this team. Obviously, I don't think that he's going to be as good as Jeremiah Smith, but I wouldn't be shocked if he has a surprising amount of receptions, but more importantly, receptions on big downs. Like talk about third and shorts, like that type of situations where you need that safety blanket to the middle of the field, getting the ball to your hands fast, making things easy. I think that role is very important, especially for a young quarterback.
Let's play a little game here before we go any further, because I just feel like throwing a little curveball at Ryan. Of the three receivers that we have mentioned so far, Smith, Tate, and Innis, who has the most yak yardage this year?
Man, that's actually very interesting because like obviously Smith can win after the catch, but like he's such a vertically oriented player. Like they just do target him down the field a ton and he wins at the catch point, that type of thing. I would probably go, it's actually between Tater Inis, I think, as far as like the most yak. I would probably go just by nature of the position, right? And I'm projecting Innis to have like 50 catches, and then we'll see what he does with 50 catches. If he has that type of volume that I think he can have, I think that Innis might end up being that guy because, again, like he's going to be more involved in that screen game, RPO, get the ball out quick glances, quick slants, like that type of stuff. So I actually think that Brandon Innis could be the guy that ends up having a lot of yak yardage in this offense.
I didn't text you Max Clare at all because I wanted to kind of
I
hit on
love
the
Max
guys that
Clare,
have been at
man.
Ohio State for quite a while, but I could tell you love him because you've personally brought him up a couple of times.
Yep.
He's going to be not so much because I want to call him like a security blanket, but he's going to be an elite weapon for Ohio State this year.
I love Max Clare. He is as of today, and we haven't done our final tight end rankings, but he is my highest graded tight ends so far for the 2026 NFL draft potentially. He was injured early in his Purdue career, played a little bit in 2023, again, banged up though. And then 2024, 50 plus catches over 600 yards for a Purdue offense that was horrible. Like, he was putrid.
So bad.
The craziest stat of all time was if you would have spotted them 35 points a game, so give Purdue a just free 35, they would have went 6-6 last year, Jay. A free 35 points. Yes, they would have still went 6-6. Like, they would have been bowl eligible, but like they still would have been not a good football team, right? So like, wild how bad that team was. Despite that, you saw there were 3 players specifically, actually 4 if you want to count the Brevard kid that went down to Texas, but there were a few of the top names that were heavily desired in the transfer portal, and Max Clare was one of them. Like, Notre Dame was heavily involved with Max Clare as well. A couple other teams were, but Ohio State ended up winning out. That kid reminds me a whole lot of Zach Ertz. Like, I see Zach Ertz every time I watch him because he is so smooth in and out of his breaks, man. Another guy that just kind of lulls you to sleep. Really good hands catcher. Works the middle of the field so well. Is he a good blocker? Not really. Like, he has effort though, right? Like, he'll try, but he's just not. That's just not his style. He is more of that flex H guy that's going to move out all over the place. But I think Max Clare could be a really underrated asset to this Ohio State team because I don't think they've had a tight end like this. I mean, like, they've had a couple good tight ends over the years. I mean, what was the kid's name? Stover a couple years ago, right? Like, Cade Stover was a good player, but Cade Stover was more of like big physical brooding force of a player and could play in line. This kid is much more detached, move around. I'm very interested to see if we see like 3x1 sets with him into the boundary 101 against maybe a safety or a linebacker. Like, I'm very interested to see how they utilize Max Clare, but I think that kid is one of the best tight ends in all of college football, and I think that he is a legit 2026 NFL draft prospect to know.
Let's go to Sonny Styles. We got a little bit more time here because I was trying to figure out how to fit this in, Ryan. He was, I think, number 10 on Bruce Feldman's freak list, and at 6'3", maybe 6'4", 243 pounds.
Yep.
If there weren't so many offensive and defensive linemen up there that were 350 plus, I think Styles would have been maybe 8 or 7. That's all of college football. So, like, he is a freak athlete. He's also a freak on the field. He recently discussed that he is more comfortable in his role. He's playing fast and playing free. And the only word I could use to describe how he's going to play this year is scary, because he's going to be a dog out there. Because seeing it, if he's playing faster and he's more comfortable in his role, Texas better watch out.
Texas better watch out because I posted a clip the other day of him rushing the passer off the edge as a former safety that is now playing linebacker and winning and strip sack, right? Where it's like, this is one of those kids. We talk about the positionless football thing, right? That's what a 6'4" and 3/8. He was listed at 237 in the spring. I'm sure he's gained a little bit more weight, like you said. Maybe he's more in the 240 something range at this point. But this kid is long, explosive, fast, and versatile. I mean, like, how many linebackers could legitimately play middle of the field safety early in their careers and then transition to weak side linebacker? Like, that's what Sonny Styles has done as his body has continued to mature. I mean, and then you see him again, like, on the line of scrimmage, rushing the passer at times. You see him playing Mike and Will. You see him out in space as an overhang at times. You see him at safety early in his career. This is one of those kids that can do pretty much anything he wants athletically on the field. And his body type allows him to do that as well. Here's the one thing, though, about Sonny. Sonny was great last year. He had over 100 tackles, and he was very, very influential and important to that defense. He could still get better, though, man.
Yeah,
like, that's the thing that we're missing about Sonny. Sonny is going to be a top, probably 25 player in this class for me, just based on summer scouting. Like, I think he's a first rounder. I think he's going to end up being in that range. But the thing about him is that the one improvement that he needs to make most is he needs to be better in zone coverage from his linebacker position this year. Like, he gave up a lot last year because what happens on the second level compared to the third level, things happen faster, right?
Yep.
And understanding those landmarks and where your eyes need to go, like, that stuff happens quick, which is why I don't think Sonny was a great coverage player last year. But here's the thing. he's long and can run, so he can do it. And he has a safety background. He can do those things. If the game starts to slow down for him, because I don't think it was fully slowed down for him last year, which is crazy again to say that he had 100 plus tackles and the game wasn't fully slowed down for you. If the game slows down, we're talking about a kid that could be a top 15 pick. I mean, he's that special of an athlete. He's got that type of diverse skill sets and that positionless value. But the thing is that this isn't Isaiah Simmons where he had to learn to play linebacker. Sonny Styles is playing linebacker now. Like, he's learning the position for a second year. If he takes that jump, I think that that kid could be the best linebacker in all of college football. And I don't even think that's much of a hot take.
So Ryan mentioned some draft projections for Sonny Styles. And after the break, we're going to discuss some more draft projections for Ohio State players in the 2026 NFL Draft. So Ryan, I love these curveballs. You're great for stuff like this. So if it comes into my head, I don't care about throwing it at you. How many Buckeyes do you view as potential first-round picks in next year's draft?
Potential first-round picks. I mean, so you have Caleb Downs, obviously. I think Sonny Styles is going to be within that conversation. Carnell Tate will be within that conversation. I think Max Clare could be in that conversation as well at tight ends. There's no defensive lineman as of right now because it's a new cast of characters there. Although I do like Bo Atkinson, the transfer from North Carolina. I do think that he's a good player, but I don't necessarily think he's a first rounder. I would say that there's probably 4, give or take 1, because like people are going to talk about like Davison Igbinosun if he kind of takes a step forward. We'll see. I mean, he's going to be a freaky athlete, but like he's just so inconsistent right now. But he has high NFL grades, Jay, because you can't teach what he has, and that is 6'1", 33-inch arms and can run for days, right? He's probably going to be a 4.3 something athlete, but I'll say 4 to be safe. I think that ends up probably being the number. It's kind of a younger Buckeyes team, but like as always, they're going to have next level talent at every single stage.
Kenyatta Jackson Jr. has got a lot of love this offseason. He's looked like a pro for a couple of years. Yes, he is a freak. Yeah. I kind of view it in the same way, a little bit different than Jayden Ballard, who transferred to Wisconsin, where Ryan Day was publicly in pressers pushing Ballard to step up and say JB has to step up. I think they've been pushing Kenyatta Jackson Jr. to step up behind the doors, not so much in press conferences. He was also behind 2 guys that were NFL draft picks. So if you tell a guy who's a backup to step up, he's like, I step up, I'm still not going to play. So I get why maybe Day did a different tactic there. But I think Kenyatta Jackson Jr., my only projection for him is the only really bold one I've made this year is that he'll lead Ohio State in sacks this year. I haven't put a number on it. I don't really care. But I think his length, him coming off the edge in the size and really just the determination he has is going to be one. He's going to just be a draft prospect people like you are going to love. But also he'll lead the Buckeyes in sacks this year.
So he was actually on our Edge ranking show. He was in my top 10 and I had a top 75 grade on him. And that was just based on the flashes, right? Like the
top 75?
Yeah, man.
Bro, you're a tough grader too. I'm impressed.
Listen, Jay, you can't teach 6'6", 265 that moves like that, man. Like you just can't teach it, right? No. And in summer especially with it, it's not a final grade, but like in summer, I'm betting on traits all day. I actually remember a agent asked me to watch Kayden Curry for him, right? It's like a late round PFA type, like maybe he's that guy. I didn't like Kayden Curry, not to break anybody's hearts on this podcast, but I was like, I left and I'm like, who is 97? Like, who is that guy? I need to know who that guy is, right? And that was before I remember him as a, I remember Kenyatta as a, I remember him as a recruits a little bit, right? But like I didn't know how well he's done at Ohio State and what he's done, and I know that he was a very small sample size last year working behind JT and Jack Sawyer. But that kid is the most gifted defensive end that I have seen in that room so far. Yeah, and maybe you can make an argument with like CJ Hicks moving down to edge full time, like athletically, but you just can't teach the skill set he has, man. So yeah, I put a top 75 grade on him for summer scouting based upon just the pure flashes. That's actually a guy I was forgetting about as we're talking about first rounders. Here's a hot take. If he puts it all together, is that kid a first rounder? Maybe. I mean, like it's possible, so. Man. Like he has that upside to him. Obviously, he's not near that guy right now because we don't have a real sample size of him. But if he takes a substantial jump, then yes, he's going to be a guy that every draft analyst is talking about a lot.
Why don't you really like Kayden Curry?
I mean, there's nothing about him that just stands out to me from like a draft draft perspective. Here's the thing about like the edge. That this is one group that I always gamble on traits because they matter more than like just about every other position. It's like for me, it's corner, edge, offensive tackle. Like those are the three that I tend to gamble on traits more than others because I think it just matters so much, right? Like you talk about the Myles Garretts and all these guys that are just completely freak show dudes. Kayden Curry's like 6'3", 250. First step's okay. Doesn't have great bends. Like there's just nothing about him that stands out. So I think he's more of a PFA type, right? Like a priority free agent that maybe goes back end of the draft. Like I just don't think he has a ton of overall athleticism or upside to him. Could he be a guy that's that grinder type that sticks on a roster for a couple years? Like it's always possible, but like I don't think that he has any one trait that I'm like that's a sticking point for a team other than playing hard.
This is the second offseason in a row that Ryan and I have done a preseason show, and Carson Hingman has come up. And I think I forced him in last year because I like him as a player. I liked him a lot, and then I realized
it's all about him getting
he got
benched.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
He's back in the starting lineup full time. He kind of got back there last year due to some injuries on the O line at Ohio State. He's kind of getting glossed over. And I'm not even like talking about NFL people looking over him. I mean, all the offseason conversations, Ryan, have been about the Rice transfer at left tackle, Austin Serveld, who's going to play somewhere on the starting offensive line. With Serveld, it's Tegra Shabola. Will he start or will he not? Luke Montgomery's taking a jump.
Yep.
People haven't really talked about Carson Hingman. Now, he's also the center, which also is easy to look over. How do you view Carson Hingman right now?
Yeah, he just hasn't taken that jump that I was hoping for, right? Like a couple years ago when he was a starter, I was like, okay, he's raw, he's green, but like there's something there, right? Like he's 6'5", 300 plus pounds. He's got good lower body strength. Like there's something to work with there. I watched him last year when he took back over after the injuries, and I thought he was just solid, Jay. Like I think he did his job. I think he's a good college football player, but I think I may have overestimated his upside early on in his college career. Like again, he'll be in a camp because he's going to be a multi-year starter at Ohio State, but I think he's much more in that like Kayden Curry mold as far as like he might just lack some athletic traits to be like a high-end dude. But if you told me that he was a 6th, 7th rounder type of pick or a PFA that sticks for a little bit, I wouldn't be shocked. But he just he didn't have quite the upside that I thought he may have had coming out of high school early on in his career.
So the one thing I think with him is that I think it was last year against Penn State, he was at left guard because Jackson got bumped to left tackle for the first time in his career. And that was the first time I started to wonder if Hinzman's best position is guard, not center, at left guard. But he hasn't played it enough to get a large enough sample size to say, yeah, definitely play him at guard over center. This year he's going to start at center. I don't think Luke Montgomery's going to move to center and then Hinzman to guard, or Josh Padilla being the backup that's going to like jump Hinzman. He's a center. And he may just be a guy where you're like, maybe his best position that he's going to play, he should play, is not the one he's going to play, just out of necessity for Ohio State's offensive line. But I can't say that because I don't have a big enough sample size to make that type of statement.
Well, I think with his size, that gives him some versatility, which is why they've toyed around with guard at some points, right? So, but I think ultimately what the conversation that we initially had as far as like him trying to hold on to a roster spot and to cling to a roster spot, that's going to matter so much. Like those back end guys need to be able to play multiple positions. They have to. So him having that slight experience, even if it's not that much of an experience, but having that and also having the physical size he has, because again, like he's not a small center, man. Like he's a pretty big dude, right?
Yeah.
So like him having that natural size, I think gives him a higher floor to potentially making a roster. But again, like I think the system is going to matter a ton for him too, because I just don't think he's going to be like a heavy outside zone type of dude where he's got these great movement skills. He needs to play in tighter quarters, tighter confines, and be physical. If he's able to find that home, I think he has a chance to at least latch, but it's really going to depend on that situation.
Ryan, you're the first guest I've had on, well, second guest in a couple of weeks, but the first one we're going to ask to kind of predict who's going to win between Ohio State and Texas. I want to do this with a few more guests until the game kicks off on Labor Day weekend. Who do you think wins that Saturday, Ohio State or Texas, in the season opener?
You're trying to get me beat up on a podcast, Jay. I don't like this, okay? But I would pick Texas as of today. I think that Ohio State is going to be better down the stretch of the season than they are going to be early on in the season, because like they are a little bit inexperienced in some very important key spots, or at least from a playing together perspective, right? Like you're going to have a first-time starting quarterback. You're going to have a new slot receiver, which is very important in the Ohio State offense, a guy that's played, but like first time being a starter. You're going to have a transfer portal left tackle or right tackle, wherever the Rice kid ends up playing. You're going to have a transfer portal tight ends. You're going to have a new defensive front. You're going to have a new middle linebacker next to Sonny Styles, even though Arvell Reese played a decent amount last year as a backup. But you do have some guys that are just going to be new to the spots that they're playing. And I know that some flip side, and people are going to hate this because they're going to be like, hey, doesn't Texas have the same thing? And it's like, yes, they do. But I am just a little bit higher on, like, in comparison, Arch Manning compared to Julian Sain. It doesn't mean that I don't think Julian Sain is going to be very good. I think he's going to put up great numbers in the Ohio State system. But I'm just a little higher in some things that Texas has in comparison. So I will take Texas in that game, but I do think it will end up being a very good football game.
I'm right there with you. I want to save my prediction for the show till game week. We got a crossover that week we're going to try and do. But Ryan, I'm glad that you tackled that question and didn't shy away from it. And also gave us some great analysis. We're going to try and get you back on at least one more time before the first official game week for Ohio State. So I'll text you after the show and try to get our schedules lined up. Anything you want to leave the people with in regards to anything we talked about today?
Nah, man, I think it's going to be a very interesting one because a year after winning a championship, obviously, and doing what you did for Ohio State, is a lot of changes in one offseason, right? Which typically happens, right? Like, good teams usually get guys that are poached, right? So, like, Chip Kelly goes to the NFL, and Jim Knowles heads to Penn State, which is still a very, I know, Penn State means something to him, but I'm just like, that's still a very strange move that happens. But you lost your two coordinators. You have your head coach that wasn't the best play caller of all time recently, that is now going to be the offensive play caller again, right? So, like, he'll have his pulse on that. And then you have a new quarterback. You have a couple new offensive linemen. Like, it's just going to be a little bit different this year, right? So I think that my biggest pulse again on Ohio State is that I think it is a very sustainable product because of how Coach Day has recruited and how that staff has recruited over the last few years and how they developed, especially at certain positions. But I do think that this is going to be one of those teams that maybe struggles a little bit early in the year. But I do think Ohio State, if they are able to right the ship early on and stay afloat, which I think they will outside of the Texas game, then I think you want to be hot in December, going into January. Like, that's when you want to be hot. And I think that they have the formula to do it. I just think that you need a little bit more patience as a fan this year because I don't think the start of the year is going to be the most crisp operation.
Ryan, where can people follow you on Twitter and check out the work you're doing?
Yep, at Rise and Draft on Twitter. If you like the analysis or you like the content that you see on the page, A to Z Sports, we have continued to expand over the last couple of years. They added 11 college football sections to the site last year, adding even more people on both the NFL and college football side this year, getting ready for the 2025 season. So if you like the content, A to Z Sports, you go to A to Z Sports Film Room if you want some video analysis as well.
You can follow me on any social media platform at jstevens07. Send all of your emails to jstevens317@gmail.com. We're up out of here on a Monday, y'all. We'll see you next time.